Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the class. For today, we'll be dealing with weekly legal updates from 21st to 27th of September. Let's start with the first update. So we have a Supreme Court judgment, Satish V.K. versus the Federal Bank of India. Okay, Federal Bank Limited. Now the Supreme Court over here in this case has ruled that the second SLP. What do you mean by SLP? Under which article SLP has been stated? Yes, which is the relevant provision for SLP? Let's just discuss about SLP a little bit and then we'll go ahead with Satish VK. Very good. It is Article 136. Correct. Can anybody differentiate between appeal? Because appeal is also a ground whereby the Supreme Court can be approached. Now there is this SLP also. What is the difference? Why is this SLP being given one of a remedy? SLP is discretionary, so is appeal. Appeal is also discretionary. आप लीव टू अपील लेते हो उसमें? Yes, a very important essential feature of SLP. हाँ जी, जो और बाकी लोग हैं वो म्यूट स्पेक्टेटर्स बनेंगे. They will not use their brain and answer me. Other than it is being only in Supreme Court, I want an exact thing. SLP is filed only when there is graver injustice. ठीक है, this is one of the essential condition. Appeal is a mere right. Okay, but when we say SLP, appeal being a mere right can be filed in any case. But in SLP, the person who is filing an appeal has to go ahead and prove that there is a graver injustice. And that is why the Supreme Court has to take up this matter. Yes, correct, Hussein. Appeal is a mere right, but SLP is not a mere right. It is an exceptional case. Am I clear? So please remember, graver injustice has to be proved by the person who is filing SLP. Chalo, theek hai. Let's start. Fine. So this is the first update itself. Supreme Court has ruled that a second SLP against the same order is not maintainable if the first SLP was withdrawn unconditionally without liberty to refile. This is the same procedure which is being followed in civil cases. When a petitioner is filing a civil case and without any condition, without the permission of the court, they are thereby withdrawing it. Then now later on, the petitioner is not allowed to file that same case in the court. Why? Because there was an unconditional withdrawal. Having the same analogy applying over here, the Supreme Court stated the second SLP cannot be filed again. Over here, even if the petitioner is stating, I have a very graver injustice, it is okay. That is one of the essential you need to prove. But the Supreme Court will ask you, why have you withdrawn the first case? Was it conditional? Have you took the permission of the court? Have you took the consent of the court to refile it? If no, then you cannot go ahead with the refiling it again. Very, very important judgment. Why? Because somehow we have this stereotype in our mind. We have this thing in our mind. SLP should be filed at any place, any time when the person is able to prove graver injustice. But no, it also has some limits. The court observed that after an unconditional withdrawn, a party cannot later revive its challenge via fresh SLPs. This is also very important. The court stressed that permitting such pleas would erode the doctrine of finality. Very important. So, what is the purpose of finality? And encourage endless litigation, contrary to public policy. At any point of time, the court or the law wants an end of a litigation. Up over here, when we'll allow a second SLP, then there might be a scenario whereby the person is claiming for the third time. I want to file for the third time. This will be an endless litigation going on. If the person is able to prove graver injustice, then the remedy of SLP will be going on. There will be no end to this. So over here, taking the principle of doctrine of finality, stopping the endless litigation, which is contrary to public policy, the Supreme Court went ahead with this judgment. So if you study Constitution of India, you will not find something like that. There is no limitation as to filing SLPs. But then the limitation has to be interpreted so as to protect the public policy. Am I clear? Next, merely trying to initiate conversation with women alone does not amount to outraging modesty. Very important. So Punjab and Haryana, yes, it is more or less like a res judicata. But over here, the problem is, if I go ahead with interpreting what is res judicata applies only when there is a final decision of the court. But when the party itself is withdrawing, then there is no final decision. Okay? So we cannot say this is a principle of res judicata. It is something which is talking about the withdrawal by the parties and unconditional withdrawal. Clear? So you cannot, if the question is ki, after analyzing this fact, whether the doctrine of res judicata applies, no, the doctrine of res judicata is not applicable over because there is no final judgment. Before the final judgment, the party had already withdrawn. Clear? Chaliye, moving ahead. So, over here, the Punjab and Haryana High Court ruled that merely attempting to initiate an unwelcome conversation with a woman, though annoying, does not constitute the criminal offense of outraging her modesty under 354 of IPC. Clear? Agar merely having a conversation might be a possibility that the woman is very annoyed. Why is this person talking to me? Do I know him? That is many a times a girl's attitude. Why is this new person, stranger, talking to me? But if a male is merely initiating a conversation, does not mean that you go ahead and file a case against him claiming that he is trying to outrage her modesty. Outraging her modesty is a very bigger term. And mere unwelcomed conversation should not be included. So it's a very good Punjab and Haryana High Court judgment. The sensitivity of any persons to initiate a conversation cannot be measured on the ground of an offense. Right? There should be some kind of intention involved. Up over here, it might be annoying, but annoyance does not mean that somebody is trying to outrage her modesty. May I know what is the most essential feature whereby you can differentiate, yes, this person is going ahead with the offense of outraging her modesty? Yes, everyone, tell me. What is that essential feature whereby you are analyzing the facts and you need to carry out that whether outraging of modesty has been made or not? So what is that feature which you will analyze and find in a fact? Okay, other than intention, what kind of intention? What he should be doing, जिसमें आप intention उसको imply कर पाए. Intention is something which is implied. But what kind of act he is doing? Can I say she is doing for outraging her modesty? Is it a gender neutral law or is it a very female restricted law? Over here, if you're saying unwelcome behavior, then unwelcome conversation will amount to outraging her modesty. Matlab Punjab and Haryana High Court is not correct. Outraging her modesty mein there should be physical touch. I don't agree with that. No, not at all. अगर फिजिकल टच होगा तो फिर तो वो सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट बन जाएगा, आउटरेजिंग हर मॉडेस्टी तक वो नहीं रहेगा. Voyeurism is completely different. See, I have asked a very simple question. What is the essential ingredient which you need to analyze whether there is outraging her modesty? And nobody is giving a very specific answer because it is very difficult to analyze. Okay? It is very difficult to analyze whether an offense amounts to outraging her modesty or not. It is not talking about something but about modesty, which can involve some physical act, जैसे कि अगर वो ऐसे दुपट्टा ओढ़ी और आप उस दुपट्टे को उड़ा दो, so it might be outraging a modesty. ठीक है, सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट तो नहीं हुआ, आउटरेजिंग अ मॉडेस्टी के अंदर आ गया. या आप ऐसी क्या बात कर रहे हो उससे कि which is causing her outraging her modesty. So both physical and verbal things will be included into it. Firstly, correct, words, gestures, everything will be included. What kind of gestures you are showing to her? Up, I have asked you another question. Whether it is a gender neutral law? So no, it is not a gender neutral law. This offense is only against the male. Her modesty, his modesty तो लिखा ही नहीं है. This is not a gender neutral law. Clear? Correct. Very good said. Modesty is something which differs with individual. And that is why if you go ahead and read outraging or modesty ka section, you'll not be able to differentiate, you'll not be able to define it very properly because it is all based upon the interpretation. Correct? Now, if I would have read the first part whereby there is an unwelcomed conversation and that unwelcomed conversation is annoying to a woman initiated by a male, then according to that woman, she is feeling very much annoyed. And that annoyance can amount to outraging her modesty. Clear? But the problem is the other later part of the facts. The court observed that the prosecutrix herself admitted that the petitioner only tried to talk to her once. Very important. It is not an ongoing procedure whereby each and every day or each and every hour he is coming up and annoying, having an unwelcome conversation. Then it might amount to outraging her modesty. But it is a one-time process and left when she refused. So after the refusal, he went away. With no criminal force alleged or used, the court found that the ingredient of section 354 not made out, even prima facie. Very important. अगर मैं या आपके पास facts यहाँ तक आ रहे हैं, then it will amount to outraging her modesty, annoyance, unwelcome conversation amounting to your outraging her modesty. But if it's just a one-time thing, a refusal has been made and he left, never came back, it will not amount. Even prima facie also, it does not amount to outraging her modesty. Clear? But then insulting modesty, अब आप differentiate करके बताओ मुझे कि what is insulting modesty and outraging a modesty? How are these two terms different? You have studied now. You have studied BNS. You have studied IPC. Am I clear with this thing? Very important. A few facts, a few words in the whole fact make a lot of difference. Clear? So as a law professional, go ahead and analyze the facts accordingly. Have a stricter approach. Don't go ahead with a lenient approach, but always have a stricter approach. But still, go ahead with analyzing the facts correctly. Then, a very important update, whereby the Italy becomes first European Union country to pass comprehensive AI law. So this is the first country which had passed a comprehensive AI law. Italy has become the first country to pass a comprehensive national law on artificial intelligence aimed at balancing protection and innovation. A very great initiative. Now, the law imposes criminal penalties, including PRISM terms, for those who use AI to cause harm, such as creating malicious deepfakes. Very need. It is one of the biggest need of the hour. So over here, Italy went ahead with a comprehensive law protecting the AI. Protecting the misuse of AI. Now over here, the law imposes criminal penalties as to those who are misusing the AI and going ahead with creating malicious deepfakes. Acha, okay. Just tell me one thing. Does India have any law whereby we can use it for the protection against the misuse of AI? Can you name some law which can be used? Because abhi we don't have any AI particular act. Though it is a need of hour, we will soon have an AI related law. But then still, if there are cases right now, what all remedies are available? Because I have taught you this thing. मैंने लीगल अपडेट में आपको एआई के मिसयूज के रिलेटेड मैंने कोई तो रेमेडी बताई है. आई एम आस्किंग दैट रेमेडी ओनली. IT Act, correct? There is IT Act. Other than that, what kind of remedy? I am asking about remedy. See, law is correct. IT, data protection, very good. Data protection law is also there. Now tell me the remedy. Remedy, क्या remedy है? DPTP Act. DPTP Act कौन सा एक्ट है? डाटा प्रोटेक्शन की बात कर रहे हो क्या आप? ठीक है, ओके. हाँ जी, tell me remedy. This is the act protecting AI right now in India. What is the remedy available? सोचो, मैंने आपको बताया था किसी के डीप फिक्स. वेरी गुड दुर्गा. इंजंक्शंस. So there are different injunctions, not temporary, perpetual injunction. वो नहीं काम करेंगे. What kind of injunctions have been recently applied by Delhi High Courts in a lot of cases protecting the deepfakes? याद है कुछ injunctions? 3 different types of injunctions, 3 or 4 different types of injunctions, जिसको मैंने define भी किया था आपके लिए. मैम याद तो था, पर क्योंकि रिवाइज नहीं किया इसलिए अभी तो याद नहीं है, है ना? एग्जाम के एक दिन पहले पूछेगा तो शायद पता चल जाए, तब तक हम रिवाइज कर लें. नहीं, नो मैंडेटरी, नो टेम्पररी, नो परपेचुअल इंजंक्शन. देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ इंजंक्शंस. Okay, this is an open-ended question for everyone. If you have attended the legal updates class, you should know it. नहीं पता है मतलब कहीं ना कहीं तो लिखा हुआ, उसको बस पलट के आपको देखना है. So please go ahead with revision. This is my way of testing you. और मैंने आपको पकड़ लिया कि आप नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं. Very bad. ठीक है? So go and find what all new injunctions have been applied by Delhi High Court in protecting the deepfakes. Now, let's go ahead. Talking about the Italy law as well. It also sets rules for AI use in sectors like healthcare and education and requires parental consent for children under 14 to access AI services. Good. I don't know how will this work. How will the parental consent will be taken up for a child under 14 years? But yes, it's setting rules for the use of AI in different sectors also. The legislation seeks to promote human-centric, transparent, and safe AI use while safeguarding innovation and privacy. So, this law is nowhere kind of restricting the innovation. It is trying to protect the innovation by protecting the human rights also. Clear? So remember, Italy become the first country in EU. Very good, साहिब. John Doe injunction. Good. चलो, रजिस्टर में आपको मिल गया, ये अच्छी बात है. अब आप रिवाइज भी कर लेंगे, और जिनको नहीं मिला अभी तक वो खोल के रिवाइज कर ले प्लीज. चलिए. Yes, another legal update. Any legal heir or representative can file consumer complaint on deceased behalf. So Delhi High Court has held that any legal heir of a deceased consumer is competent to file a complaint under the Consumer Protection Act. The ruling came in a case where the deceased brother faced a challenge with opponents arguing he was not a class 1 heir. Delhi High Court has simply stated that any heir, any legal heir of a deceased consumer has a right to file the case under the Consumer Protection Act. Now, over here, the ruling came only after there is a deceased brother who is filing a case, and now it has been challenged that he is not a class 1 heir, and that is why he should not be made eligible for filing the case on behalf of the deceased brother. Now, the cases whereby the Delhi High Court stated no, the Consumer Protection Act nowhere restricts heirs. It is talking about legal representation by any kind of heir, not restricted to class 1. It clarified that the Act makes no distinction between class 1 and class 2 heirs, and any legal heir or representative is entitled to seek redressal on behalf of the deceased. Clear? So any kind of legal heir, legal representative is entitled to seek the relief, provided they are not stranger or rank outsider. Very important. So not these strangers, and somebody who has been outsider cannot go ahead with filing the case. Other than that, any kind of legal representative, legal heir is entitled to file the case under the Consumer Protection Act. Clear? Why did I go ahead and talked about this? Because there are times when a fact came whereby only class 1 heir being written. So you might, because you have not studied Consumer Protection Act, so you might get confused. It might be a possibility, though under any of the law, there is no such restriction as to legal heir being filing the case, be it class 1, class 2 or any kind of, but might be a possibility in Consumer Protection Act that is the restriction, and you will go ahead and marking the same. Only class 1 heir will be allowed, not class 2. So this is one thing very clear. In not even any special law, minor law, this is something which has been given. There is no restriction as to legal heirs or legal representatives filing the case on behalf of the deceased. No restriction. But what kind of restriction is there? Only regarding the time limit. If there are 30 days given or 90 days given for a legal representative to represent the case of the deceased, then within that time, he has to file it. Otherwise, the case will, what will the result of the case? If there is a deceased, the legal representation has not been made within the time limit, what will be the result or the effect of that case? No. Ex parte, ठीक है. Result of that case. Dissolve? Dissolve क्या होता है? Dissolve क्या होता है? What is dissolve? Is it a company which will dissolve? Case थोड़ा सा होता है. Use the correct legal term. I know what you want to say is correct. ये क्या हुआ? Use the correct legal term. Not dismiss. Dismissal नहीं. Abate. No, not dismissal. Dismissal मतलब दोनों पार्टी का लॉस हो जाएगा. Abatement. Abate हो जाएगा. Clear? Remember, the case will abate. Fine. चलो याद तो आया आपको शिवम. Good. कोई बात नहीं. मुझे लगता है जब आपके पास ऐसे वर्ड्स आएंगे लीगल टर्म्स आपके ऑप्शंस में, तो यू विल मार्क द करेक्ट आंसर, बिकॉज आई नो डिसमिसल का मतलब ही आप अबेटमेंट ही कह रहे थे, बट इट्स ओके. आर वी क्लियर विद द फर्स्ट जजमेंट? सो इन कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट, any kind of legal heir, legal representative is allowed, not restricted to class 1 itself. Next, no bar on granting anticipatory bail if substantive offense not found to be committed. So Kerala High Court has clarified that the statutory bar on pre-arrest bail under SC/ST Act does not apply if a court, after preliminary examination, finds that the substantive offense is not made out. Acha, tell me, Kerala High Court is simply stating that even the restriction which is given under SC/ST Act May I know the case provision for the same? Which is the provision whereby there is this restriction that in SC/ST Act no anticipatory bail to be given? I have dealt with a recent case law. If anybody remembers the judgment, the name of the case, it would be great. What are you talking? No, tomorrow, then 30. ये क्या आप बात कर रहे हो? No talking in my class. चलो, thank you so much. आपने मुझे डांटने का मौका दिया. Very good sign, Kiran. So, can I get the case provision for the same? Very good, Amrita. Section 18 of SC/ST Act is talking about a restriction that whenever somebody is alleged under SC/ST Act, no anticipatory bail can be given. Very good. Same over here. So the High Court is stating, Acha, if you have studied that judgment, we know that there is an exception to it, right? Over there, other than section 18 talking about that no anticipatory bail to be given, the Supreme Court clarified there is an exception to it. If the court is satisfied that there is no prima facie case being made out, in that scenario, anticipatory bail can be given. Correct? Even though it is one of the mandatory provision, but that mandatory provision has been liberally approached. Over here, the Kerala High Court is somehow following that decision and clarified that the statutory bar on pre-arrest bail does not apply if the court, after preliminary examination, very important, finds that the substantive offence is not made out. Correct. Ruled on an anticipatory bail plea where the alleged rape was found to be consensual, negating the grounds for invoking the stringent provisions of the Act. So, there is this party who is alleging that rape has been committed against her, but it was found that it was a consensual act. When there was a consent involved with both the parties, then it will not amount to rape. And that is why now, even if it has been alleged under SC/ST Act, the protection of Section 18 will not apply over here. The court also noted that Section 32V of the SC/ST Act applies only to the offences punishable with 10 or more years imprisonment, and since other alleged offences did not meet this threshold, anticipatory bail was granted. So there is another restriction that the offences which has been talked upon whereby the anticipatory bail will not be given should be the offence which should be more than with 10 or more than years of punishment. But over here, other than rape, what all offences were alleged does not fall under that category. And because of that also, that condition not being fulfilled, anticipatory bail ka bar will not be applied over here. So this is something new which we studied. Hai na? Other than section 18 restricting that there shall be no anticipatory bail given to a person alleged under SC/ST Act, there is another condition. For the offences, 325V is talking about the another condition whereby the offence should be 10 or more than years of punishment. But if that condition is not met out, even prima facie level on preliminary examination, the court is not satisfied whether the case is being met out or not. In that scenario, the anticipatory bail can be allowed even if there is a mandatory bar under section 18 of the Act. Clear? Yes. Am I clear? क्योंकि अब क्या हो सकता है ना, SC/ST Act का जो वो हम लोग ने एक recent case law of Supreme Court पढ़ा है, that is great, but nowhere this condition was talked about. So might be a possibility with that judgment, this condition will be asked. Because this is also a recent judgment of Kerala High Court. Clear? It is somehow upholding that judgment only. Am I clear till now? Are there any doubts? The case name for Kerala High Court was not important. That is why I have not included over here. Even when I go ahead with telling you the Supreme Court judgments in the legal update scenarios, the case name is not so important. तो अब अगर short में भी वो case name याद कर लोगे, that is sufficient. Case name नहीं भूल जाएगा, interpretation can be asked. Clear? Now, going ahead with the next update. No RTI disclosure of SEBI's internal investigation. What do you mean by SEBI? ठीक है, it's a regulatory body and Security Exchange Bureau of India. Correct. Now, Delhi High Court has held that details of internal investigations conducted by the SEBI are exempt from disclosures under the RTI Act. So, Delhi High Court has simply stated that though under RTI Act, SEBI's disclosures are to be given. Okay? SEBI's act should be disclosed. But when it relates to internal investigation as to something, then that is exempted. The ruling came in a case where an appellant, after alleging irregular share allocation to related parties, sought information on SEBI's insider trading probe. Now, there is this individual who is alleging that an irregular share allocation has been done and there is an insider trading. So, there is insider trading going on. What do you mean by insider trading? Is insider trading an offense? It's an offense. What is it? What do you mean by insider trading? सेबी की प्रीमाइसेस के अंदर ट्रेडिंग करने को इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग कहते हैं क्या? Very good, Durga. Good. So, on non-disclosed information or prices, there is trading going on. बोली होती है अंदर की बात पता कर लेना, उस पे ट्रेडिंग होना. Correct. Non-published, confidential, very nice. Majority of time the prices rise because of insider trading. Correct. So over here, Delhi High Court stated that information as to internal investigation which took place in the insider trading probe that cannot be disclosed. SEBI had declined the request, arguing that the sharing such information could compromise the investigation process. Will you agree with the SEBI's request that no, I cannot go ahead with disclosing the internal investigation? Even Delhi High Court is upholding that. No, internal investigation cannot be upheld in this scenario because it will compromise the investigation process. Do you agree? Or do you feel like that the investigation has to be put forward to the people over here? Yes. Do you agree with Delhi High Court upholding that internal investigation should be exempted? Because sooner or later you will be reading a judgment from Supreme Court in this regard, whether the Supreme Court will be agreeing to it or disagreeing to it, right? So as a future judges, future lawyers, what is your opinion into it? How will the Supreme Court interpret? The balance should be maintained so confidentiality is also not compromised. Correct. It's also correct. But then the individual will come up stating ki if it's an investigation and it has been done at a public forum, then why not disclosing the same? Does it involve something which will hamper over here the SEBI's reputation or SEBI's thing? That is why not going ahead with the disclosing. So every coin has two sides, you know. So which way will you go ahead is your output. Others, I am asking and waiting for your answers. तो मैम आप क्यों वेट कर रही हैं? आप आगे पढ़ाइए, है ना? चलो, think about this. Think about this कि whether Delhi High Court has stated upheld it in a correct way or not. Next is a Supreme Court judgment. Sanjabich Tari versus Kishore S. Borkar and another. Supreme Court has ruled that the complaint under 138 of NI Act is maintainable even for a cash loan exceeding rupees 20,000, setting aside the Kerala High Court's contrary judgment. अभी हाल ही में ही दिस इज द केरला हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट, जो कि किसी स्टूडेंट ने मुझे पूछा भी था कि ऐसा रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगा. सो केरला हाई कोर्ट हैज रिसेंटली स्टेटेड कि एनआई एक्ट विल नॉट अप्लाई in cases where a cash loan has been taken for exceeding 20,000. अभी मतलब 2 महीने पुरानी बात होगी, मैक्सिमम 2 महीने पुरानी बात या उससे पहले की होगी. उसी से रिगार्डिंग दिस इज सुप्रीम कोर्ट स्टेटिंग कि नहीं, कंप्लेंट अंडर दिस इज मेंटेनेबल. केरला हाई कोर्ट स्टेटेड नो, इट इज नॉट मेंटेनेबल. 20,000 से एक्सीडिंग आप कैश लोन ले रहे हो, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. चेक लोन नहीं है, कैश लोन है. एनी कैश लोन एक्सीडिंग 20,000, the NI Act will not apply. Supreme Court ruled कि no, NI Act will apply. The Apex Court clarified that the limitation under Section 269 SS of the Income Tax Act, which restricts cash transactions above 20,000, does not invalidate the underlying debt or the check issued for its repayment. Very important. Even if इनकम टैक्स एक्ट एक रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगा रहा है 20,000 के अबव के कैश लोन के ऊपर, बट देन स्टिल इफ देयर आर अंडरलाइंग डेट्स, checks being issued in the repayment process, then obviously it will be covered. Why will it not be covered? Both the scenarios are little different. एक इनकम टैक्स की बात कर रहा है और एक लोन के रीपेमेंट की बात कर रहा है, चेक बाउंसिंग की बात कर रहा है. करेक्ट? केरला हाई कोर्ट हैज मिसइंटरप्रेटेड इट and stated because there is a limitation period on the transaction under Income Tax Act. Similarly, we will put a transaction in the NI Act also. But there is no such restriction. The NI Act 138 or any of the provisions going ahead with that does not create any restrictions. It is merely talking about check being dishonored. By what method that loan was taken hardly matters. If you are repaying or going ahead with the check system and it got dishonored, you will be covered under the procedure given under the 138. Clear? So the Supreme Court had clarified it. Very important because this is very highly judgment. The NI Act's purpose is to protect the sanctity of negotiable instruments independent of tax law compliance. Correct? Tax law compliance is completely different sphere. The check bouncing protection is totally different. The court also issued elaborate guidelines to trial courts to reduce the backlog of check bouncing cases. Am I clear? So over here, the Supreme Court had clarified Kerala High Court has misapplied the Income Tax Act ka limitation under the NI Act. The NI Act had no such limitation, and that is why even a cash loan which has been exceeding rupees 20,000 will be covered if there is an underlying debt and there is a payment through checks, and those checks got dishonored. Clear? Acha, before going ahead with this case, tell me one thing. Have you studied NI Act? नहीं पढ़ा है तो पढ़ा तो कहीं ना कहीं होगा. What are the recent amendments made to NI Act regarding what has been NI Act been recently amended? Please make sure before your exam you are updated with all the constitutional updates. Okay, important constitutional updates, you should have a list of it. If you don't have a list, make a list of it. Then you should be aware of all the recent updates, recent amendments or updates done in any of the laws. Clear? That is something you should know. Because ikka dukka question, you will find it in your question paper. So why go ahead with the negative marking on that? Go ahead and have that marks. Clear? So make a list of it. Sunday अब आपका ये last class है, इसके बाद तो you don't have a class. I guess Sunday को morning में class होगी, whatever. Make sure you utilize that period जिसमें आपके classes नहीं है, and go ahead with making a list of the amendments and the recent updates. Yes, tell me, what is the recent amendment done to NI Act? Yes, 2018 amendment. Yes, I'm talking about 2018 amendment only. Regarding what was the NI Act being amended? Ma'am, NI Act is not included in our syllabus, and that is why we haven't studied. Not no power of the district court. What power of the district court? See, CLAT PG is not restricted to its syllabus. Correct? Make sure you know important things from other subjects also which are not being covered, because you never know any of the examiner thought of including that thing up. This is a homework for everyone. Go ahead and please make a note of the recent amendment of 2018 done in your NI Act. 138 के cases हमने बहुत पढ़े हैं, right? We have covered lot of recent amendment case, recent latest cases on your 138 NI Act related. That is the most important. Other than that, we have recent amendment. Go ahead and study that. In case a recent judgment on NI Act becomes is asked, may I know which is the very good, Amrita, interim compensation, very good. So, may I know the recent most important judgment regarding section 138 of NI Act? I have told you a lot of times. अब मुझे वो आपकी मुझसे सुनना है. Yes, which is the most important judgment of this 2025 from the NI Act, which had become a landmark judgment, also has been used by other cases by the Supreme Court itself. And with this, you have a task to do. You need to note down the negotiable instrument ka the recent judgment. Dana Singh Prabhu. No, not Dana Singh Prabhu. I'll give you a hint whereby the complainant of section 138 was included in the definition of victim. No, Muskan Enterprises. Dashrath Wala is your landmark case. I'm not asking about the landmark judgment. I'm asking about the recent judgment. Very good, Ashika. Celestium Finance. Celestium Finance is the most important case regarding section 138. Good, Bhavya. ठीक है, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट दो दाना सिंह प्रभु और जो भी उसके साथ साथ है, those are very important. It is somehow related, but Celestium Finance has become the landmark judgment. Recent से वो सीधे landmark बन गया है. Please make sure you remember that. हाँ, please, yes, your task is to find out the important amendments done in your NI. दो अमेंडमेंट हुए सिर्फ दो सेक्शंस के, बट उसके सब प्रोविजंस बहुत है, इंटरेस्ट है, हर चीज है. Go ahead and jot it down. सिर्फ पढ़ना नहीं है, लिखना है. Clear? NI related cases बहुत important है from exam perspective. Make sure you remember. अब आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, that is secondary, but you go ahead with revising it, learning it by heart. Now, Lakshman Jangare versus State of Chhattisgarh. I might be using the surname incorrectly, but you can just write the surname. करेक्ट. सेक्शन 372 ऑफ सीपीसी नहीं, सीआरपीसी, और वो भी प्रोवाइजो. ठीक है. यस. Supreme Court has clarified that touching the private parts of a minor without skin-to-skin contact constitutes aggravated sexual assault under Section 9M of the POCSO Act, not rape. ठीक है. Merely touching the private act will amount to aggravated sexual assault, will not amount to rape. Clear? What do you mean by without skin to skin contact? अब जब मैं किसी को टच करूंगा स्किन टू स्किन कॉन्टैक्ट तो हो रहा है. How will you differentiate? What do you mean by skin to skin contact? जब तक आप बताओ जब तक मैं आगे बढ़ती हूँ. The court emphasizes that such acts remain serious offenses but fall under the distinct legal provision, ensuring appropriate sentencing and avoiding misinterpretation of rape under Section 375 IPC. Correct? It is a serious offense. If somebody is touching a private part of a minor, even if an individual, it is an offense without consent, but it will not amount to rape. It will only amount to aggravated sexual assault. Correct. Somehow you are correct. The sentence was accordingly reduced to rigorous imprisonment of 5 years under 354 IPC and 7 years under Section 10 of POCSO Act, with both sentences to run concurrently. What do you mean by sentencing running concurrently? This is given under BNSs and particularly prior to that in CRPC. That when there are two offenses, two imprisonment, they should run concurrently. This is one of the procedure to be followed. One at a time. तो मतलब जब 7 years complete हो जाएंगे, then the जब 5 years complete हो जाएंगे, then the 10 years will be 7 years will begin. Correct. Concurrently मतलब one after the other. One, the first sentence will complete, then only the second sentence will go ahead. It will not be taken up कि 5 years में 7 years भी include हो गया तो then only 2 years. No, 5 years plus 7 years. That is to run concurrently. This has been asked in your exam, so remember the sentences don't run simultaneously but concurrently to each other, one after the other. Next, Divyangna Kumari, Haris Singh Parmar and others versus Union of India and others. बस इतना ही याद कर लो. दिव्यांगना कुमारी versus Union of India and others. Now, Supreme Court has ruled that a plea of estoppel. What do you mean by estoppel? And where is it been defined? Is it been defined anywhere? Good evidence. ठीक है. अब yesterday only I took up landmark cases on BSA. Give me the landmark case on plea of estoppel. I have dealt with 2 landmark cases regarding plea of estoppel. What are those cases? The first important English case whereby the estoppel has been defined particularly, and there is another Indian case. अब मैं इससे ज़्यादा hint नहीं दे सकती. पकारा तो कोई केस भी नहीं है. पकड़ा नारायण है. ठीक है, वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड. Krupa is correct. MP Sugar Mills and Saim Ansari is correct. Pickards versus Sears. Pickards versus Sears is your English case law whereby what is estoppel being defined, and in MP Sugar Mills, promissory estoppel was dealt in. Am I clear? Remember the judgments. वरना फिर मेरा इतना मेहनत आपका पढ़ाना 1 घंटे को लेक्चर सब वेस्ट हो जाएगा. So Supreme Court has ruled that a plea of estoppel cannot be maintained against the government when it exercises its legislative, sovereign or executive functions. So we cannot use estoppel against the government authorities when they are exercising some legislative, sovereign or executive functions. Very important. Legislative, sovereign, executive function में आपका एस्टॉपल नहीं यूज हो सकता. तो कोई एग्जांपल दे सकता है कि कब हम एस्टॉपल यूज कर सकते हैं अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट? डोंट टेल मी मैम जुडिशरी फंक्शन में कर सकते हैं, लेकिन यहाँ पे जुडिशरी नहीं लिखा है. Can the plea of estoppel be used against government for any purpose? That is my question. Can we go ahead and use the estoppel against the government? Yes or no? Very important. अगर ये आ गया एक्सेप्शन में तो फिर आप तो बता ही नहीं पाओगे, क्योंकि मैम आपने तो पढ़ाया ही नहीं, लिखा तो सिर्फ यही था. If people having legitimate expectations, can you explain me, Ashika, what do you mean by this? I cannot understand. Yes, everyone, please answer. Can the plea of estoppel be used against the government? Yes or no? इसके लिए भी गूगल सर्च करोगे आप लोग? चलो, Durga, you're correct. Yes, it can be used. There is no bar of using plea of estoppel against the government. So if the government is promising something in their sovereign, legislative, executive function, then the estoppel will not be applied as per the judgment of here. Please remember, plea of estoppel can be applied against the government while the government is doing some administrative function, not related to the governance. Clear? When it is not related to any sovereign function but mere administrative function, then the plea of estoppel can be applied. Remember this. Agar government went ahead and entered into a contract with some builder कि मैं आपसे बिल्डर नहीं, एक शॉप से, with a shop that I'll purchase 100 kgs of cement from you, and later is not following 100 kg and not buying this 100 kgs of cement, then he can be stopped. A plea of estoppel can apply to it. ठीक है? So this is how plea of estoppel be assumed कि administrative functions के लिए कोई भी ऐसा function जो कि sovereign function नहीं है, in that regarding plea of estoppel can apply against the government. Generally, plea of estoppel is not applied against the government. Generally, if you go ahead and interpret the cases, plea of estoppel does not apply to government. The ruling came in a case where land allottees in Dadar and Nagar Haveli argued that their Alwara lands could not be forfeited for failing to cultivate them. So over here, the land allottees are claiming that their land cannot be forfeited merely because they failed in cultivating them. Fine. The court rejected this claim, holding that the allotments were conditional tenures. Very important. So these allotments done in Alwara lands were conditional. Since the allottees failed to meet the conditions, they were not entitled to retain the land or claim compensation. because they failed in cultivating them, which was a precondition to it. Now they cannot claim a promissory estoppel against the government, stating that you have promised that we'll have this property, so we'll have it, even if we failed it. It was a conditional tenure. Am I clear? Yes, correct, Shalini. If it is not a sovereign function, it is not regarding any of the legislative executive function, then the plea of estoppel will apply. Am I clear? Generally, people have no right, fundamental right on property. Over here, they were leasing done on the basis of conditional lease, that you need to cultivate the land. If there's a failure, then we'll take back. So now these allottees did not cultivate the land, and when the government is claiming back the property, they are putting a plea of estoppel. They are claiming a plea of estoppel. Once you have promised us to allot us this land, you cannot take that back. Supreme Court stated no. Plea of estoppel does not apply over here. Firstly, it's a conditional tenure. यहीं पर ही बात खत्म हो जानी चाहिए कि भाई कंडीशनल आपका था कि you will cultivate it. In your failure of not cultivating it, it will go back to the government. Secondly, the estoppel does not apply to government because it's a sovereign function. Allotting a land to people is a sovereign function, and that is why over here the plea of estoppel does not apply. Am I clear? Very important. आपके में लॉ ऑफ टॉट आ रहा है ना? लॉ ऑफ टॉट तो पूछा जाएगा. ये प्ली ऑफ एस्टॉपल लॉ ऑफ टॉट का भी पार्ट बनता है, जिसमें सॉवरेन फंक्शन नॉन सॉवरेन फंक्शन की बात की गई है. सो माइट बी अ पॉसिबिलिटी कि उससे लिंक करके आपसे पूछ लिया जाए. एंड दिस इज वन ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट ऑल्सो. सो रिमेंबर दिस. So please remember, you need to reconnect the facts. You are going for an LLM. You're not an LLB student giving a CLAT UG exam, right? So over here the CLAT से CLAT मतलब LLB pass out से यही assume किया जाता है कि they link a law. So over here there's a linking of law. Am I clear? Yes. The last case for today, Pooja Rasne versus State of NCT of Delhi and others. The Delhi High Court has expressed serious concerns over the growing misuse of Section 498A of IPC, which is dowry harassment, observing that the husband's relatives are often maliciously roped in without specific allegations. Correct? This is not a concern of today, but from past many years. The cruelty law or the female restricted law have been misused. Majority of time, 80% of the cases regarding cruelty or dowry harassment are generally fake. Justice का नाम important नहीं है. Emphasize that while the law is a vital shield for genuine victims, it is increasingly being weaponized to settle personal scores and inflict harassments. Correctly stated. Now the people use it. The woman over here does not use it as a shield, but as a weapon. We generally say all the female-related restricted laws are the shield for the protection of females, but females are starting using it as a weapon. The court stressed that the vague and general accusations against family members, particularly those living separately, undermine the legal provisions intent. Very important. So over here, the court is generally talking about the concerns as to Section 498 ka misuse. This is not the first time whereby the High Court stated. As a Supreme Court, there are a lot of judgments. Can anybody name a very important judgment as to the guidelines which has been provided by the Supreme Court in your dowry harassment case? Very important case, मतलब landmark case regarding 498A. Independent. As far as I remember, independent thought is talking about um, rape related, consensual sex. Very good, Shivam. Arnesh Kumar. Very nice. Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar is the most important case. When Section 498 came into picture, the police did one thing. Whenever there is an allegations against the husband or their relative that they are causing some kind of dowry related cruelty, then the police had one job. केस आया, एफआईआर रजिस्टर की और भागते हुए गए क्या करने, कस्टडी में लेने. The police did this only. As an FIR had been registered against 498, the police went, banged their house, take everybody whosoever is there who has been named under the FIR, even the cousin of the cousin being named in the FIR as doing some kind of sexual harassment or some kind of dowry related harassment, he was called upon and being put into custody. That is the scenario. इससे इतना डर फैल गया, इससे पता लगा कि मिसयूज हो रहा है. When the reports come up, crime bureau reports, there were 80% of cases which were fake, and accordingly in Arnesh Kumar this was countered. Now you as a police you need to have some sense over here. You cannot just directly bang somebody's house and go ahead with arresting them on the mere pretext that there is a dowry related harassment case or there is a woman offense being done over here. Correct? So guidelines were made and stated that no immediate arrest can be done in this scenario. Over here, they have to first go ahead with the preliminary investigation. So once a case been registered, go ahead with the preliminary investigation to check out whether there is an offense or not. And after that only, you can go ahead with the arrest. Am I clear? A very important, Arnesh Kumar, if you have not studied the guidelines, go ahead and study that. Okay? There are few things, there are few judgments which are very important. These are the judgments, even if I don't talk in the class, even if nobody is talking, but you should go ahead and find those judgments and make a list of it. Okay? Am I clear with this case? If you have no such doubt, then I'll end the session for today and we'll meet on Monday.
Enhance legal skills. Unlock success with Rostrum Legal.